Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. That sounds awkward saying because nobody watches my videos. Let me formally introduce myself once again. My name is Yuddha. Nice to meet you. You know what? Let's just go in for a hug. Why don't we? Come on, group hug. Wasn't that uncomfortable? I thought so. I apologize for the really bad lighting. I am filming this at, I don't have my watch. I'm filming this video 9:48, so that's what I'm doing. So as you can tell by the title of this video, I am making this video, I've said that word so many times already, about tips and advice on how to not feel unmotivated and discouraged and low in life, whether or not you're experiencing personal life crisis or career stress or whatever it may be. This video is about that because I myself am experiencing that. I was watching a lot of videos and reading a lot of posts about people's experiences and their story and their tips and their advice and whatnot, so I thought, why not make one myself? Clearly I do like making videos, so giving this a go. I don't want to make this video too long. It says Yuddha after post-editing like a 10-minute long video. So I'm just gonna jump right into it. So I do have a bunch of things written down, as you can tell right here, because I like to be organized and I have a chaotic mind up in here. I want to begin this video by telling you a little bit about my story and my backstory, my experiences and whatnot, so you can get a little bit of understanding of what I'm going through without giving too much detail. Well, to begin with, I am 26 years old and I am losing my voice, clearly. I graduated with a BA, which is a Bachelor of Arts, in psychology in 2015, where I majored in psychology. Before I continue with that, let me just say, if you are thinking to pursue a degree in psychology, I would say stop everything you're doing, put your pencil down, exit out of the schoolyard, just don't do it. Don't. Okay, sorry, I exaggerated there a little bit. Essentially, if you are thinking of studying psychology, not because, you know, it's interesting to learn about the mind and you want to be like a mind reader or you want to be on Criminal Minds, those are all my dreams, clearly. I would suggest going down that path if you're thinking of pursuing a master's in psychology or specializing in the field in general, because other than that, having a bachelor's in psychology is just a waste of your time and your money. And yeah, I learned that the hard way. I mean, I'm speaking for myself, of course, but I have basically done research post-experience and talked to people themselves who said themselves that they agree that it was just, you can't do much with a BA in psychology, which really sucks because I wish I knew that beforehand going into the major. So after I graduated from York University, yes, I went there, in 2015, I was struggling to find a job, a full-time position in the field. And I do have to say, I do blame myself because I didn't take into consideration that it's really important to work as well and, you know, get your feet in the door, if you will, volunteer or do internships, but at the same time, it's really hard to figure out how to do that in the field of psychology, hence why I just kind of flew through it, and that was that. And so when school finished, I struggled to find a job in the healthcare field, and so I ended up working in retail for a year. And during that year, I mean, I made good money or whatever, and it was sustaining my life, but I realized that's not what I want to do. That wasn't thriving me, or I wasn't looking forward to going to work. It wasn't my passion. So I took the risk of resigning and I went back to school. So fast forward a year after, I think, a year and a half after, I did a diploma in social service work, specializing in immigrants and refugees at Seneca College. And that was a 2-year diploma. Let me just say, that was the best educational experience I've ever had. Not only was the program really, really interesting and fascinating to me, and I was really passionate and also good at it, the college experience in general was just like 10 times better than my university experience. I really enjoyed my program. I learned a lot, and the difference from my university experience into college experience is that I learned that volunteering is so important if you want to get yourself out there. So during that time, I volunteered at hospitals. Actually, I did volunteer at the hospital post-university, and that wasn't really helpful. It just was experience to be in the hospital itself. So besides that, when I did my social service worker program, I did summer jobs, so just like short-term contract positions. And I mean, even if they're short-term, they really do catapult your experience and your knowledge, and as well as look good on your resume. So I worked at youth centers as a youth worker. I worked at a women's shelter as a child and youth worker as well, and worked at the YMCA working with children. So clearly my path was kind of working with children, but my issue was that I wasn't passionate about working with children. I was passionate about social advocacy, social justice, gender equality, gender issues, women issues, equality, inclusion, poverty, all those things, Indigenous affairs. Those things I realized during my social service worker program, what I was truly interested in, passionate about. And I thought, well, I'm not going to continue working in a position that I'm not fueled with passion. And I know, of course, it's a big risk because you end up being unemployed and not making any income, which is what my life is right now. But it's really hard to kind of, weigh what you're passionate about and what you could actually get. That's a bit of my backstory and my experience, and I'll get it into a little bit of what I'm kind of experiencing right now. I've learned that the social service work or the social work field is not so different from the health fields, like in terms of psychology and whatnot. The health field in general, specifically the nonprofit or social service field, is very competitive, very scarce if you don't have a master's degree. Do I have a master's degree? No. Would I like to? I would consider going back to school again to get a master's, but that brings me to the point of being unemployed and not having income to sustain myself in school. It's a vicious cycle. Essentially, what I learned a lot about this field though, because I have a bit of an experience working in nonprofits and seeing the environment and the work culture, the high turnover rates and whatnot, what I learned is that if you want to do well in the social service sector and get a really good position with good salary, good benefits and whatnot, and long-term permanency, if you will, it's recommended to get a bachelor's or a master's in social service. And I have a social service diploma. I was thinking of doing a bachelor's, but I was really tired of kind of going back into school and getting a taste of the work field and then going back into school and then, back and forth. It's like, how many times can I go through that, At the end of the day, I need to have an income to sustain my life and to pay the bills, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, I don't know why I did that. During the time I was actually in school, I felt like I was at the top, but I just felt like I was doing well and I was proud of myself, and I was helpful to other people and supportive to them and kind of gave them advice on what to do. Now I'm back to square one, where I'm looking for work and unemployed and feeling like the world's out to get me, and it's really hard to get out of your own mind, but that is so important to do, or else you will just go in a sinkhole, and trust me, it's like this close to doing so. So that's kind of what the social service sector is about. It's highly competitive because they want the best of the best, and I don't disagree with that. I understand that completely. But also it's really hard to get entry-level jobs. They still are looking for a lot of experience, and if you're freshly out of school, it's hard to get that experience unless you do volunteer and work throughout the school year, which I have done, but it's still proven difficult and challenging. I did my research and I was trying to figure out, am I the only one experiencing this? And it turns out I'm not. So I don't know what that tells you. I don't know if the field of social service work or the field of social work is like a wise career path, because at the end of the day, everyone wants to do what they're passionate about and what drives them, what they are good at. But if that can't really sustain them to live a functional and comfortable life, then you end up in a crossroad. So I want to talk about tips and advice on how to not feel unmotivated and not feel discouraged, and how we can make changes to better our opportunities and ourselves altogether. So my first tip is to keep on keeping on. I know that's so cliche and easier said than done, but I think it's so important. There are many times where you feel like, I'm just gonna give up. What's the point on continuing and doing the same things? Like, you're doing the same thing and there's no results at the end. And I'm gonna be the first to tell you that I completely understand. Like, there are many times where I feel like, is it worth it? You know, should I just screw it and just go back to working wherever else I can get a job? Of course, no one wants that. You want to keep on keeping on and thrive and work harder than ever, but then you end up with no results at the end. So my first practical advice would be to find creative ways to put yourself out there and to make changes, whether it's jazzing up your resume or really look into your cover letter and what really you could change to stand out, adding skills that you may have not put in there before. Other than that, let's say you use social media to converse with people, to reach out to people, to communicate, to have a community. I think in this day and age, social media is a huge platform to put yourself out there. For example, Instagram is a huge one, of course. You see a lot of people out there who are advocating, who are speaking on important issues and trying to get people to be more active and vocal about it. I think it's really nice. I myself like to do that because I get to include both of my passions, which is creative outlets or being creative and also social issues, so why not? But be creative about it. Try to put yourself out there. So even if you don't get results, just try, find new ways. Talk to your friend, talk to someone who's having a similar experience to you or who are doing really great things and see what they did that you can do. So I think that's really important. Tip number 2, volunteering. Volunteering, like I said, is so important. It shows employers that you are taking the initiative to get out there, to get involved, to do the work, and to actually gain experience without someone telling you to do so. I highly recommend that. I remember telling some of my classmates during my social service worker program to volunteer, and how it does really make a huge difference, especially on your resume, and it does catapult your chances and whatnot. So volunteering is really good. I know that it could be complicated when, let's say, you have a lack of income. Transportation is expensive. I understand that that can, add up, but maybe find somewhere closer to you that's not too far. Find a friend who can do that with you, or find a family member who can help you out with that. Find ways to volunteer online, perhaps. But as long as you stay active in the community that you're passionate about, or stay active in the issues or whatever it may be, I think it's really important. And I know that it doesn't generate any income, but you can't expect to get results if you're not putting the work in. So volunteer, folks. And lastly, tip number 3. So this one's a bit redundant or kind of hypocritical in a way, because my tip is to find temporary jobs. The issue is that you're looking for a job, so if you're struggling to look for a temporary job, aka me, that could be a huge challenge right there. Find anything that you can find, whether it's working seasonal jobs, whether it's working as an admin in an office, whether it's working with your family member who can help you out or something. I don't know. Find temporary jobs, put yourself out there, look at other skills that you have and hone into that. For example, I'm good at computer skills. I have a fast word per minute, whatnot. I'm good at Microsoft programs, so I could use that to my benefit and find jobs within offices. That's what I've been kind of looking into as well. So you just never know until you try. So definitely look into temporary jobs. I know one of my good friends has told me about this group called, not a group, but like a type of temporary agencies, which is brand ambassadors. So a lot of places look for brand ambassadors that need you just for the immediacy, and it's temporary, but it's quick and good cash. I know I struggle to find motivation to actually, do those kind of positions, because I just want like a good job, but I mean, you can't get anywhere if you're just gonna bank on, one thing. So definitely keep your options open and keep looking for temporary and seasonal jobs, because you just never know. But in terms of life in general, besides being unemployed, unexpected things in life could happen. and sometimes you just don't know how to cope with it and how to navigate your life. And when a lot of things are happening all at once, it can be really tough and overwhelming. And trust me, I know that I personally am going through the toughest thing I could ever go through in my life. For those of you who do know me in person, for those of you who do know me in person, know that I just went through a huge life-altering change, and on top of that, not working, it just takes a huge toll on your mental health. So in terms of advice on that, two main advice I could give is, one, don't be afraid to reach out to your friends and family. So easy to get stuck in your head and to only think that you're the only one going through this, or it's the end of the world. You just feel hopeless and lost, but you need to get out of that. You just need to remind yourself that you are doing all you can do, and this is not the end. This is just a really rough and challenging time in your lifetime, and with lows comes highs, and with highs comes lows. So this is just one of them, and as long as you keep working on yourself and doing all you can do, what can I say, right? But please, reach out to family, friends, because that can help a lot, especially if someone's kind of going through a similar experience to you or situation. That could really make you feel less alone. And two, I would say work on yourself, reflect on yourself, figure out what is it that you want. Sometimes you have to kind of aim lower, or not lower, but aim in the median, like a halfway point, instead of reaching to the stars. Because as much as you want the stars sometimes have steps in order to reach to them. So if you want to reach for the stars, start from the clouds maybe. Find ways to find a middle ground. Meet yourself where you are right now. We are really hard on ourselves and we pressure ourselves because we see others and we see peers who are doing so well, and of course you're proud of them and you want the best for everybody, but you often obviously think that, why can't I be where they are, you know? But you can't think like that. You have to meet yourself where you are, find what you're good at, find what keeps you motivated and drives you, and don't give up on that. Keep doing it, because with persistence comes results. I also want to finish this video with one last tip that I find really does make a difference in your thinking process and navigating through the rough times in your life. So for me, it's really important to realize that just because you are not getting the work you want in the fields that you are studying in doesn't mean you can't get there at the end. Essentially what I'm trying to say is that make your passions and your interests your hobbies in the meantime, while working on getting work in general. So for example, my passion and my interest is one day working in a field or working in an organization that works to support gender equality, gender issues, and women issues. But if I can't get there, I'll make that a pastime. I'll make that a hobby. I'll work on that on the side. Meaning I would focus on social advocacy online or volunteer for an organization. I can find work wherever I can so I can have a income and actually sustain a life or not. But it doesn't mean I can't work or do something I'm passionate about. It doesn't mean I should neglect what my passions are. So I can still work at a bloody office and do office work or whatever, but also still be engaged and active in the community I am interested in. I can still engage in social advocacy online, on social media, or volunteer, or just take part in community events, whatnot. Never neglect your passions and your interests. Doesn't mean that just because you don't have a job in the field that you just completely give up on it. Just don't lose sight of that, because for me, I found that really helpful. Well, anywho, I think this video has been way too long, and I think this is a good note to end the video, but I just wanted to put my story out there. I know it's very vulnerable for me, and I got really nervous, can't lie. Sometimes we just need to feel like we're not alone in this, or that we are not the only ones experiencing this, because I know we're not. And it's okay to be open and vulnerable at times, because maybe it does help someone out there. And if you do have any advice and recommendations and tips, please do leave them in the comments below, or hey, reach out to me on social media. I'm very open, very friendly. I don't bite, only sometimes. But anywho, thank you so much for watching my video and for staying tuned and listening to everything I have to say. Let's keep this conversation flowing, because it's good and healthy. So I'll see you guys in the next video, or whenever I put up a video. Bye!